Good evening and welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us for a public hearing tonight, which is a public hearing for Hubbard Lake Sands Resort in Caledonia Township, Alcona County. My name is Ryan Blazik. I'm with Eagles Environmental Support Division. I'll be helping to moderate the public hearing tonight. But before we get too far into it, I just have a couple logistical things that I want to go through. First off, this is the agenda. We're doing the introduction right now. And the big thing to know is that there's going to be kind of two parts to this public hearing tonight. The first part is going to be an informational session where the applicant will provide a description of the project. And then there will be a question and answer session. So you have a chance to ask questions related to this application and project. And then the second part is the actual hearing part where you'll have a chance to make a comment for the official record on this application. So you'll have that chance later on. Everyone will have that chance, and we'll go through how we're going to do that later on. We're also going to talk about where to go or find other information and other ways that you can make an official comment. For those of you who aren't familiar with the Zoom platform and how we run these public hearings, all lines are muted during the hearing. So you'll be able to hear us, but we can't hear you unless we unmute you so you can make your statement or ask a question. But for now, you can submit a question using the question box in your Zoom toolbar. So you'll see that should be in the bottom of your screen. You can click it and then type a question in. And then also, we are recording this hearing. It will be on our YouTube channel in a couple days, and you'll be able to access it when it's up. And we'll also kind of go through, again, the question and answer process and kind of making that statement process a little bit later on in more detail. With that, I would like to invite our other Eagle staff who are on the line, Joe Haas and Aaron Emmington, to turn their cameras on and give a quick introduction of themselves.
Yeah, welcome everybody. My name is Joe Haas. I'm the district supervisor for the Cadillac and Gaylord field offices with Water Resources Division, and I'll be the hearings officer for this evening.
I am Aaron Emmington. I'm with the Water Resource Division. I'm the environmental quality analyst who is processing this permit. I was formerly the EQA for Alcona, but new permits will be processed by another EQA, Scott Rasmussen.
All right, thank you, Joe and Aaron. All right, so this is the time we're going to start, kind of the informational session. So what we'll do is we're going to find Karen or Robert Brancheau in the audience, and we will unmute you. And it looks like you're unmuted on our end and on yours. You can go ahead and start whenever you're ready. Just a couple quick things, which we're going to try to keep it to about around 10 minutes, and because we're going to try to wrap up the Q&A along with the presentation at around 6:30. And then if I have your slides here, when you want me to move them forward, just go ahead and let me know and I'll change your slide for you.
Thank you. You can go ahead and go to the next slide. This is just a description of what we're doing. The application is for the following: to install one dock 3 feet from the property line on the left side of our 200 feet of waterfront property, 3 boats to the right at the end of this dock. It'll be in just a little bit. 3 boat lifts, excuse me, not boats. And then there'll be a sign at the end of the dock that says no mooring, and then it'll have an arrow to the left of this particular dock. The end of the dock is slated to be, according to the drawing, 8 feet from the riparian line as shown in the survey that I previously provided, and it's in the drawings on the following page. A second, or when we get to the I guess it'd be the 3rd page from here. A second dock is planned to be installed at approximately 90 feet from the left property line with a sign at end of that one that says no mooring and an arrow pointing to the right, because that's intended to be our swim area, which would be a safe swim area, and buoys around it to provide our guests with a safe swim area. You can go ahead and go to the next slide. Straight out from the lifts, it's planned to install 3 more mooring buoys for guest boats to moor overnight. And then the swim area, as I stated, would be to the right of that other dock with a swim platform that would be out in deeper water to provide our guests with a safe swim area and a play area for the kids as well. You can go ahead and go to the next page or the slide. As the application states, my husband Bob and I, Karen Brancheau, are the owners of the Sands Resort. The purpose of the application is to provide our guests with the ability to dock and or moor their boats safely and securely, as well as provide them with a safe swim area. This will put us in compliance with Part 301 inland lakes and streams of the NREPA and subsection 30101T. Our property encompasses 2.25 acres and 200 feet of frontage on Hubbard Lake. And just like other riparian property owners on the lake, we have the right to install docks on our bottom lands to service our property. We looked at our overall frontage and our bottom lands ownership area to develop the plan as shown in this slide to allow ourselves and our guests to moor their boats safely, as well as give our guests a safe swim area. This particular layout gives us and our guests the ability to secure their boats between the docks during the day, allowing them to load their boats, come in to use their bathrooms, pick up additional friends, drop off friends, etc. The mooring buoys and the lifts allow them to secure their boats at night in a fashion to not get damaged during high winds. The space between the two sets of docks allows them extra space to get to a safe area when trying to come in during high winds. The length of our docks is consistent with other riparian owners around us. The proposed swim area is to the right of the single dock. If you're looking at this drawing, it looks like it's to the left. In the center of the property with swim buoys that would surround it. You can go ahead and go to the next slide. That's a portion of the survey that was required for us to have. Kind of shows where the riparian lines are and how it goes out to the center of the lake. You can go ahead and go to the next slide. This slide shows how the docks have been laid out in the past, not allowing for safe mooring guest boats overnight and not allowing for a safe swim area for guests. In this slide, you can see, I'll go ahead and go to the next one. In this slide, you can see the lot next to our proposed dock is the deeded access lot for Indian Quarter subdivision landowners. The closest residential lot from that side of our property line is just over 56 feet as shown in this slide. What we would like to designate as a swim access side of our property borders a riparian property as well. The final slide, go ahead to the next one, is the certificate of, oops, nope, excuse me, sorry, that's an additional detail one as well. And then go ahead and go to the next one. And that's the certificate of survey, as I stated previously, that is required for this application. And that ends our presentation.
All right. Yeah, thank you very much for providing that presentation and all of the information here. Yeah, we're just going to transition and move right into the question and answer session. And how we're going to do that is audience can submit their questions using the questions box, the Q&A box rather, in your Zoom toolbar, or you can raise your hand using the raise hand icon at the bottom of your screen. So you can do that as well. And then we'll just call on you, unmute you on our end, and then you have a chance to unmute yourself and then ask your question. If there's people on the phone, it looks like we did have quite a few people on the phone, you can hit #2. And what that will do, will raise your hand in Zoom, and then we'll call on you and then unmute you, and you'll be able to ask your question. And again, this period here is for specifically for questions. If you have a statement to make, we'll have the public hearing portion a little bit later on after kind of this portion of the public hearing. So if you have a statement, just hold on to those for now, but this is your chance to ask a question. So if you have a question, you can type that in at any time, and or you can raise your hand in Zoom and we will call on those questions. So we'll give it here a couple seconds. The only thing I have in here now is that there's just a mention that the first dock has already been installed. And again, that's more of a statement than a question. So are there any questions either for Eagle or the applicant before we move on to, I guess, how we're going to do the public hearing tonight?
Yeah, I can just quickly respond while people maybe are developing their questions. Yeah, we are aware that there's a dock installed on the property. We have not completed a site inspection. If that question comes up, that certainly will come up. We would anticipate visiting the site before a final decision would be made. But we are aware that there's been a dock installed, and we've communicated the fact that we're aware of that with the project proponents.
Yeah, thanks for that information and clarification, Joe. All right, I'm still not seeing any questions in here, so we're gonna move on. Oh, hold on. So here we just had a couple pop up. For the applicant, why can't the site plans be reversed so that it does not affect Indian Corners?
Well, I'd like to take the first crack at that before the applicant necessarily would apply, or would maybe they Brancheau's might like to also answer. But as long as the proposal, maybe let me rephrase that, permitted activities would be allowed within the riparian's interest area. So there might be a possibility to flip things around, but this is their proposal right now, and we are going to address their proposal as it's been applied for, and determine what may or may not be permittable. And just for everybody's benefit, just know that we are a permitting agency, we are a regulatory agency, and we do compliance and enforcement, but we are largely a permitting agency that I'd say 99.9% of applications end up in a permit. And that's not because project proponents get exactly what they want or what's proposed. It's because we negotiate with them so they can meet the requirements in the statute and we can get to a permittable project. So there's a back and forth that takes place between the agency and the project proponent to achieve a permittable project. And that's why we have such a high rate of permitting. So maybe that speaks a little bit to that.
Okay, thanks, Joe. Does the applicant have, I guess, anything they want to respond with as well?
Would it be used for the general public? I expect it would be, but that's up to the Brancheaus, right? It's their property. They have control over who accesses their docks, and my expectation is it's folks that are renting at their facilities. But maybe Karen or Bob can respond.
Okay. Yeah, and they're
This would not be used for the general public. This is specifically for us and our guests to use. To be able to flip-flop that, it is not a possibility based on the drawings, based on our riparian lines and the angles that they go at. And yes, again, Joe, thank you for speaking to that, because we are working with you to be able to come up with what will work based on your process.
Yeah, good. And then there's a question, why does it appear that riparian rights are shown to the center of the bay and not the center of the lake? So riparian rights are kind of a crazy thing, right? With picture a perfectly round or pie-shaped lake, then every riparian owner or shoreline owner would own a slice of that pie out to the center of the lake. But the lake isn't exactly a pie shape, right? So the registered licensed land surveyor did a survey and determined this is where there's probably a central thread, or maybe it's discussed in that description that the land surveyor proposed. But the survey was done, and his license is kind of on the line when it comes to that. The guy's done. We've seen a lot of riparian surveys from that particular individual, but thus it's not always to the exact center of the lake. So it's the center maybe of that bay, I think, is what the surveyor determined. And the only institution that can confer riparian rights is a court, is a judge. The state Eagle will presume that a survey by a registered and licensed land surveyor provided to us is correct. If somebody wanted to contend that it was wrong, they could hire a surveyor and challenge it, but I suspect that would have to be challenged in a court. The judge, the courts determine riparian rights. The survey on its face to us appears to be appropriate.
Thanks for that, Joe. We actually have a hand raised, so we're going to go to Al and Mary Ackerman. We're going to unmute you on our end. And then you should be able to unmute yourself and ask your question of our panelists here. Looks like you're unmuted. Alan, Mary, we can't hear you.
Can you hear me? Yep.
Oh, there you go.
They had a survey done for that riparian rights out to the lake, but that is so wrong. I mean, we don't curve that fast. Their property line between us goes out, it should go follow that line out in the water at least, and not go over on our property. You see what I mean? His riparian right, you have to look at it. It's jutting over this way in our property, not down the property line. If you go straight out in the property line, it's over that, which is
Right.
not
So
right.
that's a common misconception, is that a riparian line would follow or be the projection of a property line, and it's typically not. It goes out to wherever the common thread or a central point has been determined by a surveyor, and that's what we're seeing in that survey. It's not simply the extension of a property line into the lake.
Well, that the curve of our bay doesn't go that radical. And I would have to say that I would contest that in court, because that's what it's going to be. I mean, we've never had any problem with that property line or the water riparian right out in the lake. But to go off on an angle like that is, I've never seen it before. Let's put it that way.
Okay, and we have to get to some other questions. So do you have another question, or can we move on? And you also have an opportunity to make that statement a little bit later on in our public hearing portion too.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. All right, we'll go to another raised hand. Jeff Sawyer, we're going to unmute you on our end, and then you can ask your question.
Yeah, I think, can you hear me?
I think we lost you, Jeff. Oh.
There we go. Oh,
Sounds like you just got unmuted, Jeff.
right, how's that?
Okay, try that.
All right, I'm sorry. I think what Al's trying to say, when they place the dock that's in the position that it's in right now, how are they determining the angle? I know that the riparian rights may go on an angle towards the center of the bay. I mean, that's understood. But when their dock guy is placing their dock, how do they determine that that dock is along the riparian line?
Yeah, I can't really speak to the dock placement or the justification of where that is. I can tell you we've talked to the Brancheaus, the project proponents here, about pulling that, the existing structure, the seasonal dock that's there, off the property line. Our review criteria would call that it would need to be 1.5 times the beam width if it's broadside dockage on that outside edge of the dock where the signs are being proposed to allow for a safe ingress and egress without having to cross into the neighbor's riparian area. So we would presume a 10-foot beam on a small boat, so that would give us a 15-foot distance off that property line. And so maybe that forestalls some of your concern, but I think that my presumption would be that the dock is following the surveyed line.
And the question would be to you, Bob and Karen, was that line surveyed out in the center of the lake, and how did they determine that it is in the proper location without a surveyor there shooting it at the time of install?
Can you hear me?
Yep, yep.
Oh, okay. I didn't think I thought I was muted. The drawing that we had was our dock would be at a 90-degree angle from the retaining wall or the break wall. And that's exactly how it's installed, is 90 degrees, which gives us an 8-foot space between our riparian line at the end of our dock where it's currently sitting to the side of the edge of our dock. From the riparian line to the edge of our dock at the end, it is 8 feet.
All right. Yeah, thanks for the question, Jeff, and for that answer, Joe and Bob and Karen. I'd like to go back to the typed in questions. And there's one on here. I'm not sure we can answer this first part, but I think it would be valuable to kind of talk about the second part. The first part asks why local zoning why proper local zoning wasn't followed. And then the second part though is how is Eagle able to trump local ordinances? Maybe Joe, you could talk a little bit about, the regulations involved and interaction with local ordinances might be helpful for the audience.
Yeah, I don't know. It says, I see that Aaron's typing an answer. Are you typing an answer, Aaron? Maybe if you work something up, you can speak to it.
Yeah, I did just type something in there. So I'll submit that and then I'll talk about it a little bit if you'd like to. So Eagle is considering the project under Part 301 in the Lakes and Streams of NREPA. And so any permit that's issued from Eagle would be under that statute. Now, acquiring a permit from Eagle does not exempt the applicant from getting other permits as required by townships or, your zoning, building permits. We simply permit under Part 301. That is what this project is applied under.
Okay, thanks, Aaron. I think that helps a lot. And then this is, I think, also another, I think this is a good one to talk about as well. Will the comments submitted on the Eagle site be addressed? So maybe you can talk about how those comments are used or.
Yeah, depending on what you're referencing for comments, the public notice comments, typically we certainly consider those, and you'll hear that when we finally open up the formal hearing portion of this, when we move past this question and answer period. It's the formal hearing where your comments are submitted on the record, submitted either now, through this Zoom meeting or through writing, and you can email comments later on. We'll have 10 days after this hearing to do that. And I'll cover some of that in my statement when we're opening the formal part of the hearing. I'm not sure if you're referencing these comments. This is being recorded. It's all going to be considered when we complete our, when we go through our process and complete our review. So hopefully that answers your question.
I think, Joe, that what that question was referring to are any comments that were submitted electronically via My Waters to the public notice or the public hearing. And
Yeah,
so if you want to read those statements, those comments that you submitted during the hearing, you can, but I don't think we will specifically bring them up. We will consider them while we're while we are processing the permit application, though.
Right, and we completed what's called a project review report. It's not like an extensive narrative, but it is a sort of a checklist of our review, and we will provide our, it's our decision document is effectively what it is. if there's significant comments submitted on specific issues, we sometimes would compose a response to comments to include and attach to our project review report. And just to make sure that everything is, completely and thoroughly discussed and our decision process is spelled out.
All right, yeah, thank you both. Another question, weren't all these docks all installed before in a working condition with existing neighbors since the 1960s?
It could have been. This is the project proponents coming to us to properly get a permit. It probably was historically out of compliance. A construction permit for a marina is required in this instance. It's confusing to a lot of people because the term marina can mean a lot of things, and most people think of a marina as maybe a facility providing gasoline or fuel for fueling for watercraft, maybe providing sundries, selling snacks and other things. But for our definition of a marina is really keys on providing a service, and there doesn't even need to be a fee or money exchanged. If this facility is providing a service to people and the service is docking and mooring, then a construction permit is needed. It does not meet the seasonal structure exemption, and that's really based on the fact that these aren't strictly a single family residential use. This is a commercial use by the by the resort.
Okay, thanks, Joe. Another question, if Eagle is recommending, or if Eagle recommends dock placement in the middle of the property, why is that not enforced? This is, I believe this was in the application per Aaron.
Yeah, so I can speak to that. The comment they're referring to was a note that was placed in the application that said typically Eagle asks applicants to consider placing the dock in the center of the property so as not to interfere with neighboring riparian interests. And so, right now, I want to make it clear that we have not made a final decision yet. That's why we're having this hearing. We're hearing no decision has been made. And so as far as anything being enforced as of yet, we don't have a permit issued to enforce. We haven't come to a decision.
The marina permitting requirements are spelled out between the Part 301 statute and 301 rules. So if you look at section 30106A in Part 301, which specifically talks about how our permit review is oversees the construction and what the requirements are. It doesn't specifically require that all docks be placed in the center of all properties. This property is 200 foot of frontage. They really just need to be, and I'll just quote from statute here, they need to be extending from the riparian property of the applicant. It can't unreasonably interfere with navigation, and it should be located and designed to be operated consistently with the correlative rights of other riparians, including the rights of adjacent riparians. And I think with the consideration of the configuration of being 1.5 times the length of a broadside moorage away from the property line. So in this case, we were considering a 10-foot beam width on a broadside moorage on that outside slip. So 15 feet being 1.5 times that. If they set it back that far, that's probably a reasonable consideration off the property line to meet those other criteria.
Okay, thanks, Joe. And I think this may have been touched on a little bit, but question is why wasn't there a site visit done before the meeting? Before this meeting, I'm assuming. Well,
to be clear, I think we just haven't been out there since the dock has been placed. I think we've been to the site or been by there. We simply haven't done that. We haven't made our decision yet. We're stretched thin. We've got, limited staff time and availability. There's no, I mean, this is really a property rights issue, a riparian rights issue. We have no complaints from DNR regarding, impacts to natural resources or fisheries impacts out here. We don't have Marine Patrol complaining to us. So, it doesn't, what's out there right now at this point in time, we have not inspected, and we're just openly saying that we will inspect that before we come to a final decision on this. But to explain why, I just simply haven't done that.
Okay, thanks, Joe. And then this is going to be the last question because we're at time. This is the other one I have. So it's asking, when will a site survey be done? So I'm not exactly sure what that's specifically referring to.
I think the site surveys, I know the riparian interest survey's been done. I'm not sure what a site survey means. If you mean the upland or the landward side of that, there's no review or no proposal for any of our authority. The permit doesn't include that activity.
It looks like they were referring to a visit by Eagle. Like, when would we visit the site?
How many times do you want him to address?
Yeah, we haven't scheduled that. It'll be done after this public hearing, obviously, as Aaron and I and Scott have time. We haven't.
All right. Okay, yeah, thanks. Thanks, Joe.
I mean, part of it was the seasonality of it. There was complaints over the winter when there's no structures out here. So it doesn't do us much good to go out there when it's iced over. So, we kind of were honestly waiting a bit for the boating season, for the warmer season, when there's actually boating activity, to get a sense for what's going on in here and in the adjacent neighborhood.
Okay. All right, thanks, Joe. All right, so it's time, it's at kind of time of the evening. We need to move on to the public hearing portion of the hearing tonight, where you'll have your chance to make a statement, for the record on this application. But before we do that, I'm going to go just through some other ways you can make an official comment. By My Waters, you can provide your comments directly into My Waters, which by accessing the public hearing event under submission HPG AGANWQY52. And that should be in the public notice as well, or by mail. And I'm going to read this out too, because we have some people who are on the phone who will be able to hear this. At Eagle Water Resources Division, Gaylord District Office, and the address is 2100 M32, and that's Gaylord, GAYLORD, Michigan 49735. And the comment period for other comments is after excuse me, the comment period after this public hearing will be open for 10 days, and so that's May 29th 2022. You'll be able to provide a comment. And so if you decide you don't want to make a comment tonight, you can submit a comment one of those other ways. Or if you decide to supplement your comments tonight, you can do that as well. So with that, we're going to get the hearing portion started, and Joe would like to just invite you to read the opening statement for the hearing.
Yeah, thank you, Ryan. So good evening, everyone. Thank you for making the time to attend this public hearing. I'm Joe Haas, the District Supervisor in the Water Resources Division for the Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes and Energy. I'll be serving as the hearing officer for this public hearing on Eagle submission number HPG-AGAN-WQY52. With me tonight is Aaron Emmington, Environmental Quality Analyst, formerly covering Alcona and now in Charlevoix and Emmett counties. Scott Rasmussen is also here, who is now covering Alcona County as one of his assigned counties. The public hearing agenda tonight will begin with some background information on why we're here. I'll describe the purpose of the hearing, how the comments will be used. Following that, I will outline the procedures under which we'll take your comments and describe what will happen after the hearing. Then it will be time for you to provide comments, and we'll spend the majority of the time listening to your comments. At the end of the hearing, we'll read a closing statement. I will read a closing statement. Just for background, Water Resource Division is responsible for administering a variety of programs that help protect inland lakes and streams, wetlands, floodplains, sand dunes, the Great Lakes. And these programs regulate activities like dredging or filling in a lake, stream, or a wetland, constructing a dam, constructing a marina, placing shore protection or constructing docks, and building in designated critical sand dune areas, wetlands, or floodplains. The law governing these responsibilities is the Natural Resources and Environmental Protection Act, NEPA, NREPA, of 1994, Public Act 451 as amended, typically referred to as Act 451. We're here tonight because the Hubbard Lake Sands Resort has proposed the following: to install a seasonal marina, including docks, boat lifts, and mooring buoys. The purpose of the hearing is in order for a permit to be granted, Eagle must find that the proposed activities described in the public notice meet criteria set by Part 301 of Act 451. Generally, we must consider the effect of the proposed project on Hubbard Lake. When we review an application for a permit under provisions of Part 301, we're charged with making the following considerations as required by Section 30106 of Part 301. Number one, the department shall issue a permit if it finds the structure or project will not adversely affect public trust or riparian rights. Number two, the department shall not grant a permit if the proposed project or structure will unlawfully impair or destroy any of the waters or other natural resources of the state. When reviewing an application for a permit under provisions of Part 301, I'm sorry, there's section, I've got a typo in here. A permit shall not be issued unless it's shown an unacceptable disruption will not result to aquatic resources. A permit shall not be issued unless the applicant also shows the project meets the following conditions. The marina, and I've already read these during the public comment period, or the Q&A, The marina extends from the riparian property of the applicant. The marina does not unreasonably interfere with navigation. The marina is located and designed to be operated consistently with the correlative rights of other riparians, including the rights of adjacent riparians. And the marina shall be configured so that all boat mooring under any wind condition will occur solely within the marina's riparian interest area. Additionally, boat mooring and ingress and egress for an outside slip shall require a minimum maneuvering distance of 1.5 times the length of the slip. And so this is measured for broadside moorage as the beam of a watercraft moored at the slip. So the measurement of that to the boundary of the marina's riparian interest area, 1.5 times the beam width. So the purpose tonight is to give anyone interested in the project an opportunity to provide information that Eagle can use in making a decision whether or not to issue a permit. Recognize that Eagle can only use the information you provide if it relates to the criteria that Eagle uses in making a decision. Some may simply want to express support or opposition to the project. We can make note of those comments and positions, but understand Eagle is by law not allowed to base our decision on whether there's widespread support or opposition. It's not a simple vote. So in a moment, I'll outline the procedures we will use for taking your comments. Before I do this, I need to mention that this notice of this hearing was published in the Eagle calendar on April 15th. As we discussed at the beginning of the information session, if you have a comment to provide, please raise your hand in the Zoom toolbar. To ensure the hearing is conducted in a fair manner, we'll follow the following steps. First, the applicant has already had an opportunity to describe the project. Second, we'll call on those who have indicated in their registration that they would like to speak. And then after that, we can call on anyone interested that raised their hand in their Zoom toolbar so that they can make a comment. As a reminder, if you're participating in this hearing by telephone only, Follow the directions that Ryan gave on how to identify that you would like to make a comment. You may also submit your comments to Eagle via our My Waters database, through email, or US mail. When all the comments have been completed, we'll ask if anyone else would like to make a statement. When your name is called, your microphone will be unmuted and you'll begin your comments, please. State your name and any group or association you may represent. Everyone who wishes to comment will be given, I think we agreed to 5 minutes to make their comments. We'll indicate to you when you have 1 minute left. Please begin wrapping up your comments and end within that allotted time. If need be, we'll indicate when your time has ended. Please be courteous and respectful to one another tonight. Also recognize that Eagle staff is here to provide a fair opportunity for you to express your comments on the proposed project and to listen to those comments. This hearing is being recorded, and your comments will be a part of the information we consider in making our decision on whether or not to issue a permit on this project. The public comment period for this public hearing is open for 10 days from the date of this hearing. So it ends on Sunday, May 29th. Additional information and comments submitted in writing during this 10-day comment period will be considered in our decision. Following the close of this public comment period, we'll make that decision to either issue a permit for the proposed project or with modifications, or there's potential we could send a letter of denial. You may find out what the decision is by checking the Eagle My Waters website and searching for the application number. And again, that application number is HPG-AGAN-WQY52. Thank you for your attention. We'll begin calling the names of those who indicated they'd like to make a statement now.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. As Joe mentioned, I have a list of people who pre-registered and indicated that they wanted to make a statement tonight. So we'll start with those. I'll read off the name and then I'll also read off who's next, the next person in line. I have a list of 4 people. After we get through all of those lists of names, we'll start going to people who would like to raise their hand in Zoom. And then we'll call on you and you'll be able to make your statement. And again, you should see a hand icon at the bottom of your screen. And then if you're on the phone, you can select #2. So that's #2, and that'll raise your hand in Zoom. And then we will unmute you on our end and you'll be able to unmute yourself to make your statement if you're calling in by phone. Again, you'll have five minutes. I'll give a 1 minute warning when you have 1 minute left, or a 1 minute heads up to let you know that time is running out. And also, please list your name, and then if you have any affiliation, please list that as well. So with that, we're going to go ahead and get started. And the first person I have on the list is Ken Gibson. So Ken, we're going to unmute you on our end, and then you'll be able to unmute yourself and make your statement. Looks like you're unmuted on our end. So if you click the microphone icon, you should be able to unmute yourself and then begin when you're ready.
I'm going to pass for now. I just want to wait and see what everybody else has to say before I decide to say anything right now at this time. I'd like to leave my questions open for a later time.
Okay,
Thank you.
we can do that. So next up is Jeff Sawyer, and then after Jeff is Adam Raita.
Yeah, first I'd like to, can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. I'd just like to thank Joe and their staff for putting this together. This is really quite a neat deal where everybody can participate in this. And it's tough to keep the emotions out of this for the Lakeview sub people and what's going on. I think just myself, speaking for myself, I really don't have a problem with the Brancheaus adding a marina. And the problem I have is that they're doing it and impeding our boat traffic while doing it. I think there's some other options out there that could be looked at. And number 2, Joe had listed a number of items of criteria that need to be met. And I believe a good close look at the drawings and the details within their permit application will show that those are not being met. So I guess my statement is, we understand there's a business there and they need to be able to dock their boats and whatnot, but not at the expense of all of us neighbors and in the way we've been doing it for years. And I guess that's the end of my statement there.
All right, thanks for your comments, Jeff.
Thank you.
All right, so next up is Adam Raita, followed by Timothy Friel. So Adam, looks like you're unmuted. You can begin when you're ready.
Yeah, thank you, Ryan. Yeah, this is Adam Raita. I am owner of 1972 Lakeview Drive, part of the Indian Corner subdivision. And since Tim Friel is on, I'm gonna do like Ken did here. I'm gonna turn it over to, if you don't mind, go to Tim and let Tim speak first before coming back to me.
Okay. Go ahead, Tim. Looks like you're unmuted on our end.
Hey, thank you. Don't mean to repeat a prior mantra here, but I was actually just thinking of sitting back and waiting and listening to hear, and probably will submit some comments afterwards. I will just simply offer, and as quickly as possible, I mean, my name is Tim Friel. I am legal counsel for a couple of interested parties, actually, but the owners of various properties, both within and without the Indian Corner subdivision, having an interest in the parcel immediately adjacent, contiguous, I think northeasterly of the Brancheau parcel, and the one obviously being of concern here. We got over 60 years of between them and the predecessors of use. I saw a real quick snapshot of a document, and I think Ms. Brancheau said, yeah, move along, but it was part of the riparian survey that showed a line dissecting what's clearly the use of our mooring and docking activities. And so to basically indicate, you know, I would hope that, you know, I don't know how you guys run your operation in terms of the fact that these guys, obviously, this is what we call in the parlance of my profession, a spike fence. It can be on the land, it can be in the water. It's clearly designed, and we have screenshots of text to evidence that this is just purely for purposes of blocking my client's historic use of the property. But, you know, that notwithstanding, I mean, spike fences can be on land or water, but when we talk about things like, and Joe mentioned some of the criteria, unreasonably interfering with navigation, the other riparian rights of others, you know, these are clearly in dispute, given their 200 foot of frontage and the fact that they have historically, and you just go to Onyx Hunt, take a look at it, you know, where things have always been without dispute or consternation until, well, just this year. Brancheaus have been in the area for 2 or 3 or whatever. We clearly have a problem in terms of where the true title extended riparian lands, or actually more correctly, littoral lines are. I understand the confusion about this deriving the epicenter and the equitable apportionment along the shorelines and how we determine the actual extension of riparian or littoral lines. But that notwithstanding, you know, this is clearly the fodder of and I'm not going to argue the merits of what should be and are now pending in the 23rd Circuit Court in Alcona County. But, you know, that notwithstanding, additionally, there's some serious zoning issues here. And I mean, you all being subunits of the same government of Michigan, I also just happen to be the Caledonia Township attorney. And, you know, as you may or may not know, this is a definite commercial use within a strictly residential and residential waterfront district. And at very best, this parcel that we're talking about tonight is a grandfathered parcel, a non-conforming parcel. And given the fact that, you know, they tried to skip over this parcel and indicate that the nearest one was the one next to the north or northeasterly as the residential one. No, this is residential. All these people are residential who use this and have used this for about 60 years. And as such, you know, they would have to indicate, or at least be able to evidence, that this has not constituted an intensification of a non-conforming use. And it's a special use permit at that. And on top of that, they haven't applied for a zoning permit in the first place. All of which
constitutes about a minute left, Tim.
So, you know, so I would hope that you guys are interested in that. It's just part and parcel of the whole underlying dispute. So those are basically the things I would just, you know, mention right now, and in reserve further comment for later.
All right, thanks for your comment. All right, so now I have, so Adam or Ken, I don't have any other hands raised. So Adam, if you want to go first. You can go ahead and unmute yourself and make your statement.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Ryan. So, I just want to talk a little bit like what Tim mentioned in regards to how this dock is purposely put there and designed to impede our area. And as an engineer by trade, I always speak with data to kind of back that up and support things along those lines. So I do have, I just want to state for the record, a text from Karen that says, quote, "We are aware that there are several people on the lakeside that like to see the access gone, including us." So that is just another data point to support what Mr. Friel was stating. And that is all I have to go on the record with here today.
Thanks for your comment, Adam. All right, and then Ken. So Ken would be the last person on my list, unless someone, anyone else in the line is welcome to raise their hand in Zoom. And again, if you're on the phone, you can do that by selecting #2, and then we'll call on you to make your statement. So Ken, you can take it when you're ready.
All right, I'd like to just say that I would like to know why and how they skipped all steps and went right to you. Why didn't they start with the local level, just out of respect for the local people that they have in their community, and then go up to you guys after they had everything approved? Why were the steps all skipped? That's all I wanted to say at this time.
Okay, thanks for your comment, Ken. I should mention that, it's one comment per person tonight. So if there are additional comments past your time and you've already gone, then you can submit comments via one of those other ways, and I'll go through those again. All right, so I have a hand raised, and again, we're going to go through raised hands. So if anyone else is on the line who hasn't made a comment yet and would like to make a comment, go ahead and raise your hand and we'll call on you in turn. If you're on the phone, select #2. Mary, you're unmuted on our end. Mary Dorf, you're unmuted on our end. You can unmute yourself and begin your statement when you're ready.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Hi, I'm Mary Dorf. I own a couple different pieces of property here on Lakeview Drive. I am also part of the access next to the Sands Resort. On April 20th, when they started putting their dock in, I actually approached them and asked them, I asked the dock guy that was putting it in to please stop, that, there was litigation possibly pending on all of this. He informed me that the Brancheaus informed them that they had a permit. And I told them, I said, no, they have filed for a permit, but they do not have a permit yet. And then I also asked Mr. Brancheau on occasion when they were done with putting in the piece of dock that they did have installed. I did inform him by doing so, he has completely blocked the entire east side of our docks, and that we would not be able to use our hoists. And his response to me was, I'm just trying to run a business. And I asked him, at the extent of your neighbors not being able to use their boats? And he just turned and walked away from me. So I just wanted to make that public that I did approach them and ask them not to put them in there. And 15 foot will not do us, it'll help. But we have people on that side of our dock that have 20-foot boats. They're gonna play heck getting them in and out of there. I don't understand why they have to be so close. They have 200 foot of frontage. They can move their stuff over and give us room like it's been for the last 60 years. And that's all I have to say right now. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for your comment, Mary. All right, is there anybody who hasn't provided a comment yet who would like to do so? Again, just raise your hand in Zoom or select #2 if you're calling in by phone, and that'll raise your hand. And then kind of while we're waiting to see if anybody else would like to make a comment, I just want to kind of go over what we have left tonight. So we've got any other comments that people would like to make. And then after that, we'll give the other ways you can make a comment. But we're also going to provide Joe and Aaron's contact information in case you have any follow-up questions from the hearing tonight. So that's kind of what we have coming up. And Mary, you already made a comment, unless someone else is on the line with you. I'm going to go ahead and unmute you.
I just want to correct, I meant to say the west side of our dock, not the east side. It's the west side that they are blocking.
Okay, yeah, thank you for that clarification.
Thank you.
All right, is there anybody else who would like to make a comment? All right, so I'm not showing any other raised hands. So at this point, we're going to go over a couple more things. Joe would like, we're going to close this hearing portion out. Joe, would you like to read the closing statement today? Hold up, I've got, actually, before you do that, I have one more. Looks like someone just raised their hand. So
I need to
Al and
unmute anyways.
I gotcha. Al and Mary Ackerman, you're unmuted on our end. You can go ahead and make your statement.
I have a question for the Sands too. They say they own that whole property on the 200 feet by themselves. There's 3 houses back behind them that have access to that frontage property. So how can they call for a marina when they don't own that? They share it with 3 other people.
And they never got permission from the others to even file this.
That's my question. Why are the 3 property owners that are on that property, the Brancheaus or whatever, or, you know, Karen and Bob, have blocked them out and say, you don't have rights? That's not right.
And they've told them.
So they
cannot
lied.
They've told them they cannot come down and swim there.
Okay, we're actually in this hearing portion. We can't respond to these questions.
Okay, I know, I understand.
We had the Q&A part before, but I'm going to provide some contact info and you can follow up with your question with our staff.
You think
And
you ready for me to
anything
go,
else?
Ryan?
Anything? What's that, Joe?
You ready for the closing statement?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, thanks everyone for your comments and your cooperation. We appreciate your interest in the proposed project and that you took the time to be here tonight and to offer comments. As indicated at the beginning of the hearing, you can submit additional written comments until May 29th. Following the close of the public comment period, we will consider all comments received and make a decision on the proposed project. And just to remind everyone, that still might want to submit a comment, you can submit comments through our My Waters database, through email, or through the United States Postal Service. The hearing is now closed. Thank you again for your time.
All right, thanks, Joe. Yeah, and so I've got this screen up here with the other ways to submit official comment. This is the same screen that I had up before, but again, for people on the phone, just want to kind of read off a couple things. Submission number HPG AGAN WQY52 is the submission number you can submit through My Waters. And then also by mail to Eagle Water Resources Division, Gaylord District Office, 2100 M32, Gaylord, Michigan, 49735. And as Joe mentioned, the comment period is open for 10 days, which is May 29th. And there should in the chat also be some additional information for contacting Joe and Aaron. If there are further questions, you can contact Aaron Emmington with the Gaylord Field Office, Environmental Quality Analyst. And I'm going to read her contact info, 989-619-8519. And the email address is emingtone@michigan.gov. That's Michigan spelled out. And then Joe Haas, Water Resources Division, District Supervisor for Cadillac and Gaylord. And his phone number is 989-330-9444. 9252. And the email address for Joe is haasj1@michigan.gov. And so I'll leave this contact information up here for a couple more seconds or minutes here. And Joe, did you have any final comments, I guess, or closing comments for us tonight that you wanted to make?
No, nothing. Well, nothing major. Just thanks again to everyone for participating, and we appreciate your thoughtful comments. We do live in the area. I don't know that we necessarily live in your neighborhood, and so that's the benefit, that your firsthand knowledge of this area and the lake is helpful to us, right? Nothing suffices. I mean, we're experts in our field of interest here in our profession, but you're experts in what you see in your neighborhood and know about the lake. So that nothing suffices for local knowledge. So, that's where your comments are valuable to us, and the benefit of this sort of a hearing. And it's rather stilted, where we can't answer questions throughout the whole thing. It's just the nature of the public hearing and how it's set up. So feel free to reach out to Aaron and I if you have continued questions. We'll respond to the best of our abilities. And thanks again for participating.
Yeah, thanks, Joe and Aaron, for being part of the hearing. Thank you all for participating in it, for asking such good questions, and then for our Eagle staff for answering those along with the applicants. So with that, I hope you all have a great rest of your evening. Last reminder, though, is that we will have a recording of this public hearing on our YouTube channel in a couple days. So you'll be able to access it then and review it or share it if you'd like. So with that, thanks again. Have a great evening.
Yep. Thanks, Ryan and Aaron and Jim and Scott.
Yeah, thanks, Joe.